unprecedented turn of events, the United Kingdom's highest court has delivered a crushing blow to Prime Minister Starmer, ordering his immediate resignation over a financial scandal that has sent shockwaves across the nation. Just hours ago, the UK Supreme Court released a damning 124-page verdict detailing allegations of financial misconduct, deception and abuse of public trust. Chief Justice Dame Sukkar called it a grave ethical breach, signalling a collapse in ministerial integrity. This ruling marks the first time in modern British history that a sitting Prime Minister has been publicly and legally directed to step down by the judiciary. Parliament is in chaos, ministers are in panic and the press is scrambling. The British public, already disillusioned by years of political instability, is now witnessing what some are calling the biggest political scandal of the century. The damage is profound and the political landscape has been irrevocably altered. At the heart of the controversy is a £124,000 discrepancy tied to the undervaluation of a property sold by Starmer's family. What initially appeared to be a minor technical irregularity quickly morphed into a full-blown crisis when independent auditors flagged the sale as a deliberate undervaluation to avoid declaring financial gains. Accounting firms raised alarms about the sale price, which was reported to be far below market value. They argued that the financial difference wasn't accidental, it was engineered. Compounding the issue was Starmer's failure to declare the profit in the official register of parliamentary interests, a clear violation of parliamentary rules. But the revelations didn't stop there. Further investigations uncovered a series of hidden financial irregularities. A £39,000 luxury gift from a major legal donor went undisclosed for over a year. Evidence of offshore dealings tied to shell companies in Jersey and the Cayman Islands emerged. Lavish foreign holidays and luxury travel expenses were disguised as research trips. What once seemed like isolated errors now formed a troubling pattern, an intentional strategy to conceal wealth, benefits and potential conflicts of interest. The Supreme Court's judgment was unyielding, stating that this Prime Minister has failed the ethical standards required of his office. The verdict has rocked British politics and the nation now demands accountability. The court's ruling was clear. Starmer had failed to meet the standards required by his office. The omissions and misrepresentations in his financial declarations were not only unacceptable, but a betrayal of public trust. The court concluded that Starmer had breached the ministerial code and misled both Parliament and the British public. His actions compromised the core principles of government transparency and accountability. Inside number 10, panic is palpable. Advisors have been working tirelessly, crafting emergency statements and preparing potential legal countermeasures. But the damage may already be irreversible. In Parliament, calls for Starmer's resignation have reached a fever pitch. Conservative MPs immediately demanded a vote of no confidence. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage issued a statement declaring that Starmer had forfeited his moral right to lead and called for an emergency general election. Even within Labour's the inner circle, dissent is growing. Several shadow ministers are reportedly contemplating resignation unless Starmer steps aside voluntarily. The political crisis deepens and Labour's future now hangs in the balance. An anonymous Labour cabinet source told the press, "This is now untenable. We can't defend this. If Starmer doesn't resign soon, he'll take the entire party down with him." Public fury erupted outside Westminster. Protesters gathered in large numbers chanting, "Resign now and clean politics for Britain." The crowd swelled by the hour. On social media, hashtags like hashtag Starmer scandal, hashtag Supreme Court orders resignation and hashtag PMJ trended across Twitter, TikTok and Facebook. For many Britons, the scandal confirmed long-held suspicions about corruption at the highest levels of government. Editorial boards from across the media spectrum, from The Guardian to The Telegraph, published scathing critiques demanding Starmer face full accountability. Even the BBC, known for its cautious neutrality, ran the headline, "Judicial bombshell, Supreme Court orders PM to resign." Yet the Prime Minister remains silent. No apology, no resignation and no clarity. Starmer has not issued a formal statement, press conference or public apology. Only silence comes from the man once seen as a beacon of integrity. Insiders suggest Starmer is in a defensive posture, refusing to acknowledge wrongdoing and exploring his next move. His silence has only deepened the crisis as public and political pressure mounts. Questions arise as to whether the court's decision could be constitutionally challenged. Some of his aides argue that the Supreme Court may have overstepped its bounds, blurring the lines between judicial authority and executive power. However, legal scholars overwhelmingly reject this notion. According to constitutional expert Professor Ella Hartley of Oxford University, the court acted well within its limits. Financial misconduct, particularly involving undisclosed interests, falls squarely within its jurisdiction to demand corrective action, even if that means calling for a resignation. The implications, however, may extend far beyond domestic politics. An explosive new report suggests that some undeclared donations received by Starmer's network may have originated from international law consortiums that previously sought government contracts. If true, this could transform an already damaging scandal into a serious international security issue. MI5 and the Cabinet Office are reportedly conducting parallel inquiries to determine whether foreign entities influenced UK political decision-making through illicit financial channels. Intelligence agencies are now combing through years of encrypted communications and financial records linked to Starmer's campaign team and personal advisors. The outcome remains uncertain, but these investigations could significantly alter the political landscape, with consequences extending well beyond Westminster. As pressure mounts, Starmer's political future is all but sealed. The courts have spoken, his party is fracturing, the public is enraged, and Parliament is on the verge of collapse. Even the timeline for his departure remains unclear. Will he step down voluntarily in the coming days, or will Labour be forced to oust him to salvage its credibility? Growing pressure for a snap general election only intensifies the uncertainty. Reform UK has surged in the polls, and the Conservatives, recovering from months of internal disarray, are eyeing their opportunity. Meanwhile, Labour risks falling into full-scale implosion if the crisis isn't resolved swiftly. Every path leads to the same conclusion. Kier Starmer can no longer govern. The longer he delays, the greater the damage to his party, Westminster, and the nation's democratic institutions. This isn't just a political scandal, it's a constitutional reckoning. The UK has entered uncharted territory where the rule of law has directly confronted the highest office in the land and prevailed. The world is watching, as are the millions of Britons who once believed in ethical leadership, transparency and democratic accountability. Whether this marks the end of Starmer's career or the beginning of deeper revelations is still unknown. One thing, however, is clear. Britain will never be the same again. The public has lost trust in its Prime Minister and the country faces an uncertain political future. Leadership, discipline and legal precision have now become the face of scandal, silence and disarray. The name Kier Starmer, once synonymous with moral clarity, is now etched into the annals of British political disgrace. The Supreme Court's unprecedented ruling ordering the Prime Minister to resign over a £124,000 financial scandal has sent shockwaves through the nation. This is no longer just a political crisis, it's a constitutional meltdown. Starmer's reputation has imploded under the weight of damning accusations and an unforgiving legal verdict. For many, the idea that he can continue to lead is not only unthinkable, it's dangerous. The longer he clings to power, the deeper the damage to public trust, democratic integrity and Labour's credibility. The Supreme Court's ruling was unambiguous and historic. Chief Justice Dame Souka accused Starmer of repeated obstruction, deliberate opacity and breaches of the ministerial code. The judgment focused on a £124,000 discrepancy tied to the suspicious undervaluation of a North London family property, with the profit from the sale going undeclared in the official parliamentary register. This decision has left Starmer's future as Prime Minister hanging by a thread, with his ability to lead now deeply compromised and the nation watching as the crisis unfolds. The property sale was just the beginning. Investigators uncovered a series of hidden financial transactions, including luxury gifts worth over £39,000 from legal donors with offshore connections. Like the property profits, these gifts were not declared, raising serious questions about intent, cover-ups and ethical conduct. The court didn't hold back. Starmer, it ruled, had actively misled Parliament and the public. His actions weren't a mere oversight, they formed a pattern of deliberate evasion. Legal experts have called this judgment the most direct judicial condemnation of a sitting Prime Minister in British history. Westminster is in chaos with the government on the brink. The ruling has sent shockwaves through Parliament. Civil servants in Whitehall are reportedly drawing up contingency plans for a caretaker government, something unseen in modern times. The Cabinet Office, typically detached from politics, now finds itself grappling with the possibility of an abrupt mid-term transition. The crisis has left the UK in uncharted waters. With leadership in turmoil and the nation's future uncertain, a change in leadership has been ordered not by voters, but by the judiciary. Within the Labour Party, panic has turned to paralysis. Insiders speak of internal fractures, a lack of clear leadership, and growing desperation to contain the fallout. One senior official, speaking anonymously, compared the situation to the Corbyn era, but worse. Now, it's not about ideology, it's about survival, they said. Rumours suggest at least 15 Labour MPs have discussed exit strategies with Reform UK and the Liberal Democrats should Labour fail to force Starmer's resignation. Even prominent union allies, once Starmer's fiercest defenders, are turning away. Unite the Union, a major financial backer, issued a statement demanding full accountability from those in power. While Starmer wasn't directly named, the implication was clear. Public outrage and protests are escalating. The scandal has ignited widespread discontent, deepening the political crisis and leaving Starmer's leadership in jeopardy. The UK is experiencing a rapid political awakening. A recent Ipsos poll revealed that 72% of Britons believe Starmer should resign immediately following the Supreme Court's ruling. Even more damning, 48% of Labour voters agree. Outside Parliament, protests have swelled. Tens of thousands have gathered. In Manchester, demonstrators held signs that read, "The court has spoken, Starmer must go." In Glasgow, demonstrators reenacted the court's judgment in mock trials, symbolically sentencing Starmer in the court of public opinion. Videos of these events have gone viral with hashtags like #Starmer Scandal, #PM Resign Now, and #Justice for Britain, trending across social media platforms like Twitter and TikTok. Piers Morgan didn't hold back on his show, stating, "This isn't just a scandal, it's a breakdown of leadership on an unprecedented scale." Even traditionally Labour-friendly publications like The Mirror and The New Statesman have started discussing the inevitability of Starmer's downfall. The political opposition has seized the moment. Rishi Sunak, speaking in Parliament, called for an emergency general election, while Nigel Farage capitalised on the growing power vacuum, making his own case for leadership. The political landscape is shifting. A special session was called to debate the implications of the Supreme Court ruling. The rule of law is not optional, Sunak stated. No one is above it, not even the Prime Minister. His remarks were met with thunderous applause from Conservative MPS Nigel Farage. Leader of Reform UK went even further. In a televised address outside Parliament, Farage warned that if Starmer does not step down, the people will force him out through mass mobilisation. His words, once dismissed as populist rhetoric, now ring ominously true. Political strategists from both the Conservatives and Reform UK are preparing for a potential snap election. Campaigns are already being drafted to frame Labour as the party of deception and cover-ups. The Liberal Democrats have called for a full constitutional inquiry into the Prime Minister's conduct. Meanwhile, inside Number 10, the silence is deafening. Despite the mounting legal, political and public pressure, Starmer has remained largely silent. Aides claim he is preparing a national address, but with each passing hour without a statement, frustration grows. Leaks from Labour leadership WhatsApp groups revealed deep confusion and disarray within Starmer's team. There is no plan, one message reportedly read. No consensus, no way forward. That only makes things worse. Even at the highest levels of Labour leadership, there is no unified strategy, only panic. Angela Rayner, the deputy leader, is said to be in quiet talks with party officials about potentially assuming interim leadership. Other backbenchers are preparing emergency motions of no confidence, hoping to trigger a leadership contest. Still, Starmer remains in office, seemingly hoping that defiance will outlast the outrage, but the damage to his image and government is already terminal. International fallout is growing. Britain's credibility is on the line. The scandal has not gone unnoticed abroad. The United States State Department issued a cautious statement urging calm and adherence to the rule of law while expressing concern about ongoing political instability in a key ally. European leaders are reportedly halting or reconsidering trade negotiations until there is clarity on Britain's political direction. Foreign investors are spooked. Britain's image as a stable democracy governed by legal norms is cracking under the weight of this crisis. An even more alarming dimension is emerging. Intelligence agencies, including MI5, are said to be investigating links between Starmer's undisclosed donors and foreign legal consortiums that may have sought to influence UK policy. If confirmed, this could escalate the scandal from a domestic disgrace to an international security threat, creating a crisis without precedent. Legal scholars, constitutional experts and former judges are nearly unanimous in their interpretation. Starmer has no constitutional ground to defy the court. Lord David Neuberger, former president of the Supreme Court, was blunt in his analysis. There can be no negotiation with the rule of law. A Prime Minister who refuses to comply with a lawful order forfeits the moral and legal legitimacy to govern. His words resonate as Britain enters uncharted constitutional territory. Never before has the Supreme Court ordered a sitting Prime Minister to resign. Never before has a head of government faced such overwhelming bipartisan condemnation in his final hours. What happens next remains uncertain. Starmer's team insists he is considering all options, but few believe he can survive. Every institution, the courts, the opposition, the media, and even segments of his own party is calling for his resignation. The country waits for a statement that could determine the future of his leadership and the stability of a nation. The crisis now stands at a crossroads. Starmer's next move will either de-escalate or intensify the situation. Meanwhile, public outrage grows, fueled by unanswered questions. Why was the £124,000 not declared? Who else knew? Were these acts isolated or part of a broader pattern of corruption? These questions remain unanswered. Starmer, the man at the centre of it all, refuses to speak. Starmer's fall from grace is no longer speculation, it is unfolding in real time. His silence, once seen as a strength linked to measured leadership, now reads as cowardice. His refusal to act only sharpens the public's sense of betrayal. This crisis is not just about undeclared assets or opaque property sales. It is about leadership, the health of British democracy, and the moral standards expected from those in power. As the Supreme Court's verdict echoes through the country and the streets fill with protest, one truth becomes brutally clear. Starmer's time as Prime Minister is over. He can either leave with some dignity or be dragged out by the very institutions he once claimed to uphold. Either way, history will remember this as the moment Britain demanded better. The United States State Department has issued a carefully worded but unmistakably pointed statement acknowledging the UK Supreme Court's landmark ruling and calling for a swift, lawful resolution to what is now being described as the worst constitutional crisis in modern British history. For decades, the United Kingdom was seen as a global benchmark of legal integrity and democratic order. But in just days, that image has been shaken, possibly irreparably, by a scandal involving Prime Minister Kier Starmer and an undeclared £124,000. The fallout has escalated beyond politics to an international crisis. Britain's diplomatic credibility is crumbling among foreign investors and allies. The idea of a British Prime Minister defying a court-ordered resignation is both alarming and destabilising. The optics are disastrous. A leader once praised for prosecuting criminals is now accused of obstructing justice, concealing wealth and violating the very laws he once enforced. The stakes now go beyond party politics. This is a matter of national identity, legal supremacy, and democratic survival. A nation turns, and the polls paint a grim picture. Public trust in the government is collapsing at an alarming rate. According to a recent Ipsos poll, 72% of the UK population believe Starmer should resign immediately following the Supreme Court's judgment. Even more damning, 48% of Labour voters agree. This isn't just a dip in support, it is a death knell for Starmer's political legitimacy. The opposition is quick to capitalise on the chaos. Rishi Sunak delivered a blistering speech in the House of Commons, condemning Starmer's continued silence and calling for an emergency recall of Parliament. The rule of law is not optional, Sunak declared, earning thunderous applause from Conservative benches. No one is above it, not even the Prime Minister. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, seized the moment, warning that if Starmer won't step down willingly, the people will demand it through protests, pressure and civic action. The political storm intensifies and Starmer's future is in jeopardy. Farage's words appear prophetic across the UK, from London to Leeds, Manchester to Glasgow. Protests are intensifying by the hour.